in 1745. In just 7 years, he would turn electricity from a parlor trick to a revolutionary science. Franklin's most significant theoretical breakthrough was to determine that everything in the world contained electricity.
You don't create electricity out of thin air. It actually is coming from something else, going to something else. And the whole system remains at a constant amount of electricity. It's just moving from one point to another.
And this was a great breakthrough at the time because people had no idea where electrical charge came from.
Known today as the conservation of electric charge, it became the backbone of modern electrical science.
Flow ill as pneumonia, plug in Arizona. I'm sipping on Texas, I'm drinking, I'm rolling, no seats in my man. I smoke California. Won't see me on. Bad bitches wanna bring me home before I kill her. Give it CPR.
Franklin also challenged the prevailing theory that there were two different types of electricity.
The theory was that they would come together and one would cancel out the other. So Franklin comes along and he says, well, I don't think it's like that. I think there's just one fluid, but it can be positively or negatively charged, and it can flow off an object onto another object.
I'm old school like a VCR. Stone Cold Stunner. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Young Butter. Wow. That chick bad like wow. That whip fast like wow. Big money bags like wow. They check the swag like wow.
A battery, since it acted like a battery of cannon. Indeed, on at least one occasion, this battery knocked its inventor unconscious. The world's first electrician was most intrigued with what he called the wonderful power of points.
A point like this sharp metal rod has the ability to draw electricity off of a highly charged conductor.
There's a fencing team which I've just become involved with.
If you're an artist at heart and your soul cries out for art, you'll definitely get that here as well.
And by the tutor simply asking a question.
We're looking at the most fundamental questions you can ask.
What can we really know?
What is virtue?
Can virtue be taught?
What is truth? What is justice?
Can you be pious and wise at the same time?
What does it mean to be a human being?
There's something really wonderful about the fact that students do all this preparation in the privacy of their own rooms and then come together with this group of people and think through the problem again and see it from new angles and have their own understanding questioned.
A good seminar is one that when you leave, you're not the same person anymore. Something has changed and you can't go back thinking the same way you used to.
Experiment, the Franklin experiment, to have a lightning rod to see if it will draw the charge from the bottom of a cloud.
In his book on electricity, Franklin described what became known as the sentry box experiment. A Frenchman, Thomas François Dalibard, who had translated Franklin's book, decided to try it. A sharp metallic rod extended from a wooden shed that protected the observer from rain. If the rod, which was insulated from ground, drew off electricity from a storm cloud, the observer could draw off sparks with an insulated ground wire. And the sparks flew.
Dalibard did the experiment successfully for the first time on May 10th, 1752.
Matty, how was your first night? Come on.
Still look the time.
I thought you were skin.
Yeah, well, forgot I had this.
Dalibard was careful to acknowledge that this experiment had in fact been suggested by Benjamin Franklin.
The sentry box made Franklin instantly famous throughout Europe. At about the same time, he performed his own potentially very dangerous test back in Philadelphia. In place of a tall lightning rod, he thought that a small metal point on top of a kite would draw electrical fire from the storm clouds and conduct it to a key dangling from the end of the string. When the key at the end of Franklin's kite string drew off sparks, it confirmed the results of the sentry box experiment.
Welcome to a school meeting. Meeting come to order! Everyone, sit down and shut up!
Shh. We're here to inspect the school.
Quiet, please.
I want to bring up Peter for throwing a water.
Hang on, there's an agenda. You'll have to wait.
I want to bring up Heather and Peter for sneaking out last night and waking me up.
Sorry, Starsky is next.
Okay, I'm going to speak for Maddie as ombudsman. She saw Ryan taking £20 from her cupboard.
You liar!
Shh! Don't cross-talk.
Ryan, just tell us your side of the story.
I didn't take nothing.
You did?
Thunderclouds contain electricity, and lightning is an electric discharge.
Thunderclouds become electrified by processes which we're still trying to understand better. But what we do know is anytime thunderclouds contain both ice and hail particles and supercooled liquid water drops, those clouds generate a lot of electricity by collisions between the hail particles, the ice crystals, and in the presence of the supercooled water.
So you've got a negative charge accumulating at the bottom of the cloud, a positive charge accumulating at the top, and that charge difference creates a gigantic...
Peter.
Ryan was skint last night. Today he was flashing a 20. Just check his pockets. He stuffed it in there.
Look, only do it if you want to.
I haven't got a money.
Maddie says Ryan asked to borrow money last night and she told him her mum had given her £20.
How do we know that Ryan took Maddie's money?
I saw him coming out of our room last night.
Found it outside. Oh. I found it outside.
Yeah?
Kind of improbable that you find £20 lying around really randomly.
I believe the new girl.
Sam, stop cross-talking. If you want to say something, put your hand up. Yeah?
You shouldn't go into the room and take things.
New kids always go a bit wild.
I did.
Okay, then be fine.
Shut up.
I propose Ryan gets a strong warning.
Stella?
What about Maddie? She's lost £20. That's a lot. I propose that Ryan is fined £20.
Yeah?
It could be taken out of his pocket money. How about we say £2 a week?
gigantic amount of voltage inside the cloud, and that's the beginning of a stroke of lightning.
The lightning can discharge between the negative and positive portions of the cloud, or between the cloud and the Earth, which usually has a positive charge. Proving the electrical properties of clouds was a breathtaking discovery. But practical-minded Benjamin Franklin wasn't satisfied.
5,000 miles from Delhi is the little town of Gateshead. In Gateshead, I took 32 children, and I started to fine-tune a method. I made them into groups of 4. I said, you make your own groups of 4. Each group of 4 can use 1 computer and not 4 computers. Remember, from the hole in the wall. You can exchange groups. You can walk across to another group if you don't like your group, etc. You can go to another group, peer over their shoulders, see what they're doing, come back to your own group and claim it as your own work. And I explained to them that a lot of scientific research is done using that method.
Find the highest point on any tall structure, and you'll see an ordinary-looking device hidden among the antennas and decorative spires. The unremarkable metal point, known as the lightning rod, was once the ultimate symbol of science's triumph.
Product, because this is your work. I remember every article or poem or essay I wrote because I drew a picture around it, and once we learned calligraphy, there was a calligraphy title and there were colorful borders, and it's really hard to forget information when you really can make it your own.
The children enthusiastically got after me to say, now what do you want us to do? I gave them 6 GCSE questions. The first group, the best one, solved everything in 20 minutes. The worst in 45. They used everything that they knew. News groups, Google, Wikipedia, Ask Jeeves, etc. The teachers said, is this deep learning? I said, well, let's try it. I'll come back after 2 months. We'll give them a paper test, no computers, no talking to each other, etc. The average score when I'd done it with the computers and the groups was 76%.
And every school book is different, it's personal. So they just create their own textbooks.
Yeah, this is how you learn math.
It instills in you a little obsession with beauty. I mean, everything needs to be aesthetic, and with that just comes a lot of pride in your work too.
You see, they can draw beautifully, their writing skills, their science skills, their botanical drawing skills.
Against the grain.
If they're not engaging with maths or literacy, I have to be aware of that and I have to do something about it. I feel it's my job in a state school and take action. But something that's different is if a child is ever working on something and engaged, I will never force them to leave that activity because they're busy doing it and they're learning something from it. It might not be something that I understand, or I might not recognise it, but if the child's engaged and focusing and concentrating, they are learning something from that activity.
Math and the physics and so on, plus the basketball, the volleyball, the social activism and all that kind of thing.
It was like cross-training. Because I was exposed to art at such an early age, and bringing that to a technical field like engineering really set me apart to come up with new ideas and to communicate those ideas.
That spark of creativity and of innovative.
And therefore we will leave them alone and we'll wait till they've finished and then ask them to come and do whatever it is that we need them to get done.
Mainstream educators' idea of achievement is not of completing a set task, but of completing an activity.
I'm a professional artist, painter.
I was the editor of Time magazine.
I just didn't want to come out of college knowing only how to do one thing.
I want to go to college so I can do anything I want for the rest of my life.
I think a St. John's graduate is pretty much qualified to do anything.
Anything I wanted to do, I could go do.
It's like the boot camp for life.
In as many ways as you possibly can. And I think, that's where there is a real ideological and logical clash between Montessorian and mainstream educators. That the Montessori materials, because they're self-correcting, mean that, of course, if you've managed to get 9 of the cylinders into 9 of the holes, the last cylinder will go into the last hole and it's done. Mainstream educators don't want things that are just done. It's an approach which looks for divergent forms of intelligence rather than convergent. And the reason for that, of course, is that we believe that we're bringing up children to live in.
I am doing my presentation on Adolf Rupp, the greatest and winningest coach in college basketball history.
Was he not a virulent racist and bigot like George Wallace?
He was nothing like George Wallace.
That is true. George Wallace apologized later in life. Rupp never did.
Right away afterwards. So in Waldorf schools, reading and writing seems to be slower for the first year or two. But by 7th, 8th grade, most Waldorf students, in my experience, if you were testing them, test way above grade level.
You are just saying that because of the Disney movie Glory Road.
Okay, here are some actual Rupp quotes. The trouble with the ABA is that there are too many nigger boys in it now.
That is just one incident, and count that proves nothing.
Okay, he also said, you've got to beat those goons.
St. John's prepares people for life. If most schools are concerned with preparing them for a particular professional career, I would say that's a good thing, but it's just simply not enough.
What do you need to be able to meet all of the transitions in your life?
And I use the analogy of planting apple trees. You don't want apples the first year. You want that apple tree to produce for life. Or Warren Buffett, the investor who says, think long term, don't look at each quarter. And so if you want really good results, you have to be willing to build it in a way that really has results over many years.
You need to be able to think.
At St. John's, you begin to exercise your mind.
You need to be able to communicate what you understand.
I think that the writing program that we have at St. John's better prepares people for communication in written language than anything else I've ever seen.
You need to be able to hear how people respond to you and respond